Alright, cool guys. We're live with Bodrum, Kiid, and Kimpaz, as well as myself and Reklah. Um, you guys just won. How do you feel?
Pretty
It was
good,
great.
man. That was a really exciting match.
I think relieved.
Yeah, that first half of that match, when we toasted their entire team, I was a little worried.
Yeah,
I was spamming,
everybody
telling
all at
people to
once.
stagger, 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 and they did not listen.
Well, the problem is, Bodrum does so much damage, he has a tendency to just kill off half the team in a single chain. So,
Well, I had to have auto assist on so that I could assist while I got flash blinded, and I was trying to target head, and I didn't know how hurt they were, and I was in target head lag, and they basically all died.
I mean, that's what happens when you have Bodrum chain everybody.
I would like
Yeah.
to point out, I did not kill anyone with chain in that encounter until the very end. That one, I just acid blasted everyone to death, and I shouldn't have done that.
No, we definitely didn't play perfectly, but I think we recovered super well. I think if you had asked all of us to, if you made us place a bet when we were all ghosted, getting ready to come back out, I'm not, I'm not sure we would have been betting on ourselves. So we were pretty happy to be able to kind of turn it around.
Yeah, and obviously you guys didn't hear the cast, but we thought in that position Sharks had the advantage when you guys were coming out, but you kind of just stayed on top of it.
I think Slan came out late. I don't think he came out with their whole team when they came out the second time after we captured the second flag. I think he was a tick late or something, or off doing something. I don't know.
I thought for sure what you guys would do in that situation is go ahead and have somebody, not Bodrum, cap, and then have Bodrum go to their flag room and interrupt like he had previously. So I thought it was interesting that you guys kind of just healed up, and after the second cap, you stayed still and were ready to engage KCS, which worked out for you.
Well, we're kind of having a little conversation. We were like, should we cap, or should we pick the flag and try to rush it, or should we wait here? We had a little mini conversation while they were all done.
Most times during the year, we would have gone for the cap, like you said. And I think maybe they didn't seem ready for that battle. I don't feel like they were expecting that, so maybe that helped us out a little bit, kind of going away from our niche.
Were you sitting in the flag room, or were you? Where were you guys at when you engaged when they came out at the end?
We were in their flag room, so we engaged them as they came out of their.
I mean, they should have known you were there. I guess
maybe they assumed we were. We think they were assuming that we were trying to pick it up.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So you think they kind of just rushed out headlong, trying to interrupt the cap?
Yeah,
we think. Otherwise, something else happened during that battle, because it seemed like the exact same fight we had at the beginning of the match where we got stomped, but we didn't get stomped, so we feel like they must have rushed something or gone out without someone being fully ready or something along those lines.
Yeah, I was flash blind, and I was like, I think we won that fight.
Well, I think one big issue was in that last fight, Grindel was just not able to get on the targets he wanted to be on. He kept getting engaged on Kiid, which is not his ideal target. Obviously, he wants to be on Azula, or even onto Kimpaz, where he can bash and interrupt the cones.
I think his job was to dirt kick me. I think that's what he was trying to do, because he was dirt kicking me a lot.
And Merilith didn't keep my Golem blind as much as he normally does, which actually allowed me to use him for rescues quite a bit.
I know. I'm actually surprised that Bodrum's Draco never died. He was getting a lot of rescues off, but since Grindel was using a Hammer of Justice for most of the fight, every time you rescued, it was like 10 yellow damage the Draco Lich was taking.
It wasn't awful at the end of the match, and I killed it with 3 acid blasts.
Well, there you go.
There it is.
Candy canes, right?
3 Bodrum acid blasts, yeah, to be fair.
Special acid blast. There's a star at the end.
Alright, so third victory. Of course, you are now the, I mean, I guess you already were, but Reklah and I were talking about this. Probably pretty much any metric you bring up, Stars are the winningest team in ACFL. Whether you're
winning
talking
is, we got
about,
our own word.
whether you're
Winning
talking
is, we got
about,
our own word.
yeah,
I said winning is, we got our own word.
I mean, you have to have your own word, because you guys did technically win, but so you're winning, but at the same time you are a little bit retarded, so I gotta.
Damn.
Sorry. Okay.
So I think it's getting more difficult, right? So this is not if I can even remember back that far, but this is not the kind of Stars of old where we went 19-1 and swept the playoffs, right? This was a battle, and I think I would contend that match two, you know, I felt good about winning this series regardless of match two. I think that kind of made it a 3-0 sweep. Maybe is not exactly how it would have played out, but I felt like we'd win it. But these are super competitive teams, and honestly, as each team got knocked out, like especially Hydra not making the playoffs, it just makes me think about the draft picks they're going to get next year and what we're going to have to deal with then, because people are obviously kind of starting to figure out how to play against us and working some comps for teams that are really tough for us. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out going forward. But yeah, I think we feel super good about the history of the team, and with so many of us being on it for so long, it's pretty cool.
I had questions and now I don't. So what did you guys have? I guess at this point, you guys feel free to talk about like strategies, what you had planned for the matches. I mean, are you holding on to anything secret for next season?
I don't think we really have any secret, strategy. I think we just try to stay alive, and when we need help, we yell out for help.
The first match, you guys played Saigash and Azure. Was that just because you were down a few players, or was that specifically in reaction to who you saw online for Card Sharks? Because I was a little late coming into that match.
Azula wasn't here.
Right.
Yeah, I overslept.
Yeah. Yeah, Kiid overslept and Azula couldn't make it. And I was actually listening to your stream, and I saw that you pointed out that you thought we threw in 2 chokers because they were missing Slan. We were very excited that they were missing Slan, but that's not actually why we went in with the comp we did. We unfortunately had scheduling problems. Yeah,
it kind of worked out that way.
Right, exactly, yeah. Which we were very happy about.
But it was cool. Zygash pointed out tonight, just about everybody from our team played in one of the finals wins, which is cool. Leighton wasn't around, but everybody else, I think, played in a match.
Well, I mean, yeah, why would you want to use Leighton when you don't have Zudum to go up against, right?
Well, we probably try to sleep Grendel.
Right. Leighton had scheduling conflicts, so he wasn't able to make it for any of the matches anyways. But we might have considered it. We actually, I mean, you guys are making fun of the Laroon. I mean, everyone's making fun of the Laroon play from the second match that never actually happened. But
well, no, I mean, it's a solid thing. I mean, yeah, Shallow SDL, John doesn't have the damage output or defenses of Arctic necessarily, but you've still got all that utility. You've got the songs, you've got plenty of casting, the no eyes for Grendel and Slan. You've got all the Song of Healing. You've got the weapon toss, which is huge. Weapon toss, as an SL, it still works amazingly. Like, I had a Tinker Gnome Jong, and weapon toss still worked perfectly. Like, that skill just works.
That's true because, you guys fielded Larum, but Tayros was a part of KCS's main lineup season 1, and they won the championship, right?
Yeah, so, I mean...
So...
It's...
I don't think we were questioning. I don't think we were making fun of it so much as we were curious to know what the impetus was in fielding him. Like, what was the main issue? Was it no eyes? What particular thing you guys want to? It was.
Yeah, it was no eyes. So we feel like if we have a way to keep Grendel blind, then that team's not hard for us to beat. But the problem is they stay pretty on top of keeping him unblind, and so we figured Grendel's obviously just like easy to cast on. So if we could keep Laron, with Imbue, right? If we can keep him alive long enough to not lose concentration on 2 or 3 no eyes, we felt like we'd land a blind and be pretty well off for the rest of the match. Especially when you throw in the rest of the utility that you guys were just talking about?
I think the one reason Grendel's always given us trouble is because his number one weakness is his saves. You guys have mentioned it before, like dispelling him almost does nothing. He's just like, for some reason, perfectly on point with fleeing and quaffing a potion every time. And my maledictions, being the best that there are, don't slow down a troll either. Even if I land them all and they don't get cured, he's got like plus 100 strength because he's expecting it. Just from equipment. So we just, we really, it's kind of one of the reasons we were hoping to eventually use Leyrune 4 was basically a caster, to basically be our fourth caster slot, alongside Leighton. We actually would have preferred to use him earlier in the season. We weren't specifically not using him. He was actually, he was a late round draft pick. He's a newer character, so we were actually still working on improving his gear throughout the season. So he wasn't really ready until the championship. So I am really sad that he didn't get to go up against Grendel because I really would have liked to see how it turned out.
And when we wanted him to play, he didn't show up.
He couldn't make it tonight. Otherwise, we would have been able to show that off tonight. See how it went.
There were a couple of matches earlier in the season we wanted to use him, and he didn't show up. Just to use him, give him some experience.
Yeah, it happens sometimes. I had that couple times. There's not a whole lot of opportunity for us to have used JoJo, but I tried to use him a few times and it just didn't work out where he wasn't there. Sometimes it happens. I guess.
So how are you guys feeling about next season, coming off your finishes? I know you got to be feeling good about your team composition. I feel,
I feel
the Brood
good.
probably.
Go ahead. We had an unfortunate loss in the playoffs. The first match was just a stomp. The second match, we fielded a team that we had beaten Sharks' lineup with before. I think the only difference was now Sean had Irake, and that proved to be kind of a bitch because he landed it twice, I think, and that's 10 minutes of that was like 10 minutes of Xantiln being blind. So that was unfortunate, but we have beaten that lineup with the lineup we used before. I guess we didn't play as well as we did in the previous matches, or maybe they just played way better. But things just kind of didn't go our way, and then we were down Zudum for the second and third matches. He was in Boston, so
that
we
makes
didn't
it
have.
tough. So that makes it tough.
Yeah, and that was ideally the lineup we would want to use against Sharks. We definitely could have won with our other lineups. The third match was incredibly close. Again, like it seems to be a thing with us against Sharks. Like something goes horribly wrong at the start of the match, and we lose somebody. So again, Aradict died very quickly. He forgets which room he's in. Like he always kind of assumes that he's on the west side. This is what he told me. So when he was, we were on the east side of the map. He comes out. The fight happens, and he kept trying to flee east. So he kept running back into the room when he was, getting targeted. So he dropped very quickly, and then my guys fought really hard, brought it back, and looked like we were gonna win. And then we had the everybody's sank dropped the same tick, and then just Grumps didn't go back up, so he took like 6 rounds of damage, and then that kind of ended things abruptly.
You need to pay your players more so they can afford the tank.
I can promise it's not an issue of paying them enough.
I don't know. The Sharks, Mark House probably has them stocked up with about 1 million Sanctuary potions each.
But yeah, I don't think at any point that we were just like necessarily outplayed or outmatched. I was confident. I was very confident moving into that series. Getting beat, was disappointing, but it hasn't impacted my view of how things could have gone or how things will go next season or anything. I still think, obviously it's hard to argue against Stars being the favorite ever, but I do think going into next season, if things stay kind of where they are, I'm pretty confident. So.
Yeah, hey, I mean it's no secret, and I think we said on the cast a few times, maybe Alex did when he was on here with you. We would have preferred to played KCS or Hydra instead of you guys. I think you guys are pretty tough for us. I was looking back. You mentioned your first match against KCS was a stomp, and I was scrolling back through some messages between some of the Stars folks today, and right after that, I saw the message I sent. I was like, so somebody posted about you guys winning, and I was like, it's probably too much to ask for KCS to sweep the next two, right? And then that happened. Yeah. How about you, Reklah? How do you feel about Hydra next season?
I think we're in a pretty good spot. We did some experimentation. We knew coming into the season that we wouldn't have the full team that we wanted just because so many people from the previous season weren't playing. So we were going to get as good a draft as we could. I think we personally got the best draft this season, and it enabled us to do a little better. In the original thread, there was a thread about it. I don't know who made it, but it was what teams do you see being in what place? And I put us at 4th because I thought we would have play issues, which was a self-fulfilling prophecy because we did. Viriste could never play on Sunday, and I would have put him in the core lineup almost every time. So I think we have a good core at this point, and then we're in position to have some nice draft picks.
Well, I think
disgruntled brutes.
Disgruntled.
They're like, well, you should have played me.
Well,
people do that, right?
Because every other team has that. So.
That's kind of a brute's hallmark. Is anytime Grushg goes in, there's always a couple players. Reklah was always one of them as well. There's like, no, you're spellbait. You need to stay out. You're spellbait. So yeah, there's usually that, but I was a little bit disappointed that that happened and I lost in that second Sharks match. But Reklah will tell you. Normally, when I say no, this is a good spot for me, it normally works out. So I don't know. Maybe I'm banking on like Diamond Dragons to come out here next season. Some Dragon Skins -4 saves. It's not really fair. I don't think that everybody else has Dragon Skins, but I don't have anything that really works for me. So if I could just get some -4 saves Dragon Skins and buy up those, I think I'd be happy.
That's fair. I won't complain about that.
Of course, I will. I would have 6 -4 saves Dragon Skins, permed, all that business, full saves, and then I would still not resist a single spell ever.
Well, the only person who sells perms anymore is Layton, so I don't know who you're gonna buy it from.
I mean, it's a weird thing too, because it wasn't always that way. Back in the day, I could actually save when I was wearing full saves gear, fully blessed, offering protection, alignment, all that. Like, it wasn't great saves, but you had to try a couple times at least to cast on me.
Yeah, I think the casting world has really changed in the last few years because trolls used to be able to save too, and even then it was something we just kind of accept. The DSL is such a weird game because it's hard to accept change easily because when things change, all the changes are so drastic. So things have clearly changed a lot from a few numbers moving a decimal point.
And it's weird too because it's at a point where fully blessed or not doesn't matter. Like I'm almost at the point where I'm just gonna like pull saves off my gear entirely and just be like, it makes no difference. Like, why do I have saves?
That's what the trolls do. You just stack on the strength and ignore the save.
I mean,
yeah, feels like what Grendel did, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know his gear, but
I'm sure.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, we pretty much one-shotted him most of the time.
But I mean, like, there's part of me that wants to be like, all right, no more no saves on my gear, period, except for like what gypsy rings, right? And then there's the other part of me that's like, do I want to go back to like 2000 era DSL where warriors are casting Dispel on me? Like,
that's what I was about to say.
Is that gonna happen? I don't know. Maybe.
That would be so terrible. Oh.
I wouldn't be surprised, to be honest, but it's hard to say.
So what are you guys doing for? If I could change the subject here for a second, what are you guys doing for Magma Cup? Are you guys gonna keep your core team? Are you gonna loan players out?
Brutes are gonna go in. I'm assuming Stars are as well.
Sure.
Hydra. Reklah, do you know if your guys are willing to commit to Magma Cup or?
I'm sure. I mean, Perrin is always on. Perrin always seems to be. He seems to be very excited about DSL right now. I'm sure that Asri would maybe make the time. I probably can make the time. I'm pretty exhausted from this season, honestly. I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but I think it requires a certain competitive mindset, and you have to be a little OCD to take 3 nights out of the weekly schedule for 3 months and sacrifice your real life for so long.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, right now I'm working 4 nights. I always work nights, so I changed my schedule from working 5 nights a week to working 4 nights a week, and then I've got Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday off. So I had to, and I was like, not making enough money, so I had to go and get morning shifts on 2 of those days so I could make up the missing time that I was missing trying to make ACFL.
That's dedication, man.
It's dedication, but I don't buy for a second that anybody in this call hasn't considered the same thing or that they don't think seriously about it. I think that you guys make the nights regardless of what it calls for, and I think that's just the nature of ACFL, and a little bit it's the nature of the people who are attracted to ACFL on a competitive level anyway.
If work called me, they're like, you gotta come into work early, then I gotta go, you know.
I've changed my schedule.
I'll get fired. I don't care.
They try and call. I don't answer my phone.
People depend on me.
But,
yeah, I mean, I
think last year I was playing matches for my car using stolen Wi-Fi.
I remember that.
I remember that.
I know. There's what was it? I'm pretty sure it was season 4. Yeah, is that right? No, season 4, season 3. Season 3, I believe I was in a little crappy town that didn't have real internet, so I literally just had to use my phone as internet for everything. So season 3, I think, is when I had cell phone internet and was doing ACFL. It was fun times.
It's actually been really, I mean, I don't know how long the streak can keep up, right? If you look at Stars attendance over all 5 seasons, I mean, I don't even want to think about how many matches Bodrum and I have made, and Kiid and Azula especially. Like, I mean, how many nights we've sacrificed on this, right? But I don't know. It's a good time, right? And I think, Reklah, you're right. It does take a certain type of personality to get into it enough to be willing to dedicate that time. But so far we found it pretty fulfilling, I guess. So at least lining Fleek's pockets. So
I'm wondering. I also find it's been an exhausting season. It's been great, loving it. And I think Rob would agree with that. It's affected him the same way. I'm basically back into DSL because of this season.
Yeah.
I literally didn't have a client installed on my computer for 2 years. I feel really bad about it now because jumping back into things. So I loved it. It was a good season. It was exhausting. I'm actually fascinated by the fact that we're having another season sooner than what we probably would have expected. And I'm wondering how things are going to change from that, because I think even the people in this room who are obsessed about this sort of stuff, because we were here every night this whole season, I don't know if we can continue that if the next season's within a year, So I'm curious how next season's going to turn out.
I mean, I'm excited about it. You know, there's in the interim there's Magma Cup, which is super awesome. I know. Like I said, Brutes, we're gonna stick together and try and win that. You know, we got something to prove after what I was expecting to be a Brutes championship this season. Not that like nobody else had a chance, but I'm the kind of guy that I'm usually pretty confident.
You were all expecting to win. Well, Reklah was expecting to finish 4th, but maybe everybody else was expecting to win.
Even not always necessarily expecting to win, but expecting that I can win. Like I'm pretty pretty reasonable about my chances, and so I thought, Stars had a good chance of winning, but I know that all the pieces were there for Brutes, right? So, you go into a match thinking, yeah, they can win, but we probably will win, right? Not necessarily we 100% are going to stomp this, but... And then...
Yeah. So I think we tend to be a little unrealistic about our chances of winning. We just always assume.
Yeah, I would say you two are a lot like that. I'm more on the Reklah side. I always think we're going to struggle, and even every match before the match, I'm like, we're doomed.
Yeah, you are.
We can't win without an assassin or a Jong. This is madness.
Yeah. I'll be like, we lost Misery. It's over. We lost. We can't win.
I don't want to give a false sense of modesty. It's the calculations that I make. They're just pragmatic. Like I always look at what classes we have available, what they have. Yeah. Like I think, oh, maybe an aerial jungler would have been better than an aerial druid, but we have to take it anyway. It's very much like
No, you don't. I took an aerial druid. I made him go Jong.
Well, there you go. But I can't make Virastay. Virastay's wife is responsible for him, not me.
Virastay is so good, man. That's a great
player. Yeah, he's a great player.
And he should forever stay a druid. He should never go Jong. Jongs are terrible. Junglers are horrible. It's a horrible.
See, now you have as being a part of Hydra, I have to encourage him to stay druid because he has smite. So no matter what, that's a nice niche play.
Please go Jong. Please, please, please.
Well, on the topic
go Barbarian.
Go Barbarian. On the topic of smite and the BP skills, I mean, this is kind of more a mechanics thing, but how do you guys feel about the impact that they've had on this season? Because there have literally been BP skills since the first season, right? Teros had it. Was Gwaine in the first season, or was that second season?
Gwaine only played one season. Like, he didn't play more than one, right?
Gwaine was season 2. Was Victus season 1? But he didn't play.
Well, yeah, he didn't play.
I don't think he ever set foot on the field.
So we had... I know for sure there was Teros in season 1 that had BP skill, which was Irake, right?
Mm-hmm.
I really don't even remember a bounty point skill coming into, like, one that really mattered coming into play until season 4. But even then, like, Branzel didn't have it until recently, right?
I think he had it last year, didn't
he? I don't know.
I don't remember that.
I don't remember being pissed about it last season.
So. He may have had it last season. He may not have. I don't know. It's been 2 years.
Could have just missed all last season.
Yeah. It could have just not played a big role, with Stars not being in the finals against us. We had the bye and then Stars.
Oh yeah.
So I'm not sure, but this is definitely the first season where they've been like seriously all over the place, right?
Right.
I love the fact that I got to hear you complain about Holy Smite too, that it wasn't just me.
Yeah. So I mean,
he has crit strike. So.
There's always been 1 or 2, never like a huge deal. But then now this season, there's on Brutes, we've got Branzel with Holy Smite. Hydra has Azuri and Reklah with Holy Smite.
And Virastay.
Oh, that's right. Azuri has Irake. Reklah and Virastay have Holy Smite.
Just gonna say it so nobody has to say it for me. Yeah. I'm just gonna put it out there. But I do want to point out, as I always do, that they were all valid. They were all earned in-game.
Yeah.
Good, good.
I think that's an important distinction. I really do. I think that's admirable, I guess.
Oh, all right. I have opinions. You won't want to hear my opinions?
Yes, I do want to hear your opinion.
I would love to hear your opinions. Alex.
So I'm I have no soapbox that I could speak of about cards or anything along those lines, so I'm not gonna even discuss that portion of it. But it's the element of the kind of the special snowflake boosts, which I as well have taken advantage of. I have the Star, for example. Grumph is another example who has what is it, Meteo. It's basically things that are designed to give players a reward for something. Bounty points are the same thing that are not designed around their class or their race. So these are things that are inherently never put into the balance equation. Technically, Tony Scorn's balance equation beforehand. So Meteo was not really what priests were balanced around. Necromancers weren't really balanced around having a damage boost from a prestige rank. None of the classes were balanced around their... I mean, I guess barbarians are balanced around crit strike just fine, but in general, the bounty point skills are not intended to be well balanced. They're intended to be a reward. So I think it's great that Hydra earned their skills. But I think if everyone earned their skills, we'd still be in a similar place. And there's an element of something needs to be balanced between what is good enough to actually reward players for the effort they've put in. Like, I agree the bounty point skills should be good. Crit strike obviously should be better. But at the same time, there needs to be a balance. I don't even just mean with each other. Like, I don't need Holy Smite to be just as useful as Crit Strike, but one of them changes a battle entirely, and the other one doesn't do anything. Like, the fact that they were in the match, like some matches they don't matter. Like the match just now, we had Holy Smite with Azula, almost doesn't matter because we only use it on Hartney, who's technically just stunning us at the time anyways. They had Holy Smite, which I don't even know if it landed. And if it did, we weren't heavy on damage anyway, so it's like in this match it didn't really matter, but when we fought Hydra it was huge because, again, it was all legitimate, but we were getting Holy Smited twice from two different people, and I raked. It was driving us nuts. We were losing our minds.
I actually think it would have mattered a whole lot this match, not to sidetrack us, but they missed the first one, and that allowed me to empty my mana on cones, and they had kind of a healer light team.
That's very true. It's very true.
You know what is so funny to me is the Smot missed the first time, Rob.
I'm not sure.
Yes.
Today?
And then it landed the second time. But the second time is when you guys really came out. Like, I expected fully that KCS would come out fresh. I thought it was a bad thing that you guys didn't run the flag immediately for the third time. I thought that was going to bite you. And then you guys won the second encounter, which I didn't expect. I expected it to go similarly the same way because it had the previous two times. Azla would die
every
very
other
quick.
time we had fought them like that.
Yeah. My argument for not picking up the flag was we don't want one person stuck and then to get flashed and have three people on our flag carrier while we're all flash blind and can't rescue.
Yeah, obviously it worked out, but I still find it ironic that the Smot placement in those particular scenarios didn't make that much difference.
No, that's a legitimate point. Yeah.
All right.
Wait, I wanted to finish a point though. I know I'm long-winded and I go on forever. I know this. So I think the skills need to be re-looked at, and they really need to not make as big of an impact as they do. This is going to sound like I'm just preaching to let me keep what I have, but I feel like the prestige ranks are a good example. Like, these are things that are supposed to be rare. There's supposed to be a huge reward for something. Not saying that I deserve it in a sense, but the point being that it's not that big of a deal. Like, it's like a 5% damage boost. A 5% damage boost is not negligible. Like, if anyone's ever played one of those like high-end rating MMOs, 5% is everything. You go from winning a fight to losing a fight with 5%. So I love it. It's great. It makes me stronger than every other Necromancer because I have 5% extra damage. That is amazing. Something like Holy Smite is like, all right, I'm in a one-on-one fight. I'm making him do half damage. It doesn't make any sense. It's not even like it's not a gift. It's not a boost to the player. It's just some weird on-off switch that just anyways, that's me flaming about Holy Smite. But in general, these skills need to be something that's used every time and always useful. So I like Crit Strike when it first came out, because you were the first one. I don't know if it was you, Grushg, or someone else, but Crit Strike was the first bounty point skill we saw when bounty point skills came out.
No, the first was actually Thanatel, I believe.
Perforate?
Uh-huh.
Wasn't it Perforate?
Yeah, that's right.
Yes, it was
Old
Perforate.
Yeah, that got changed like 3
if
times.
If you remember, the original Perforate was like the ideal Viper bite in that it made it so you could not flee for like 3 ticks or something like that. So
anyway.
it was literally every single time that Thanatel Viper perforated somebody, they died. Like you can't flee for like it was like 3 ticks or something initially.
It was obnoxious.
And
I
it was
remember
stupid.
that.
Like he killed like 1,000 people, and then he finally went, "Okay, this is stupid. This needs to change," and he just stopped using it until they nerfed the crap out of it. Which,
that was good of him.
Yeah,
that's an admirable way to go about it.
Well, they didn't really nerf the crap out of it. In ACFL, it can be kind of detrimental for your ticks.
Well,
it's good in AGL.
It's still good. I mean, it's like what 200 damage or something over the span of a couple ticks. So it's good. It's impactful, but it doesn't just like slap you about the face and say no, you can't do anything. Which is
honestly, I think.
Actually, go ahead.
Honestly, I think Perforate is the only bounty skill that is balanced in that way, because you have 2 that are worthless and you have 2 that are really good. So Perforate is maybe the middle ground there. You still want you still want them to be unique, but you don't want them to be overpowered, is what Alex is saying, I think.
Right. And I think when I first heard about Critical Strike, before we realized it was horrible, what I heard, I don't know, don't feel free not to correct me, but I remember like 6 years ago when I heard about Crit Strike, it's like, oh, it's a manaless, lagless damage skill. I'm like, okay, so they basically get like a blood boil ability they could throw out there, no cost to them. They get an extra 50 damage or something in a fight. That's amazing. Like no person would complain about a free 50 damage in a fight if it comes from nowhere and costs no lag. You know, like that's a great idea. And then I don't know. Then I realized what the other ones did, and I lost my mind. So.
Well, yeah, and I mean that was the original idea. Was all of the original way that they were suggested when they were first brought up was, hey, here's this cool little bonus for killing a lot of people, and it's going to help you get more kills by just being like a finishing move. They were all supposed to be a different kind of finishing move. So Perforate was going to do a good deal of damage over a long period of time. Energy Storm was going to be basically Blizzard, a mage Blizzard. Crit Strike was going to be a one-shot, more damage in a single hit, but less damage overall. I honestly have no idea what. Oh, Holy Smite was initially, it buffed your other spell damage.
It was like Imbue?
Well, I mean, you cast it on target, and then your other spell damage against that target was increased. Like, I think only yours, though, not everybody else's. But then the issue was, like, clericals don't have spell damage. So, like Crusaders, Thrakath had, oh, that was another player that got bounty skill before me. Thrakath got his, Holy Smite, and then it was like, okay, he Holy Smites somebody, and then his lightning bolts do twice as much damage. Like, that's what it did.
And I think Scorn likes flashy things, and that's cool. And I don't think any of us are going to complain if he adds cool little nifty things to these skills, like Holy Smite reducing magic damage output of the target. I think that's great. If it reduced my magic damage by 10%, I would be pissed, for example, because then I lose my star bonus and a little bit extra. But, let them be smaller numbers.
I agree with you,
I think 25% or whatever would be good.
I think that's only a good number because it's smaller than what it is now. I don't think if this skill didn't already exist, I think that would be a silly number.
And
it's got to be 35%, guys. 35%. All right. We're gonna decide the change now. I'll give you the 50, but 35% is what I want to keep. All right. And we'll go to 4 ticks.
I'm gonna write down a number on a piece of paper and slide it to you.
Here's the thing, like in my opinion, like you said, Bodrum, it's some of the bounty skills are effectively nothing. I mean, Energy Storm literally cannot kill you. It just puts you into negative HP and you still run around doing whatever. But it's just they do too much. Like they're not just a nice little add-on. They just drastically alter the entire scope of the fight, right? Like at least in the case of Irake and Holy Smite. So, there's a couple of ways you can change it. Obviously, without totally changing how they function, you can either, at least in Holy Smite's case, there's two ways. With Irake, I really only see one option, which is you nerf the duration drastically. Like you make it 0 ticks, or 0+1 at the most. With Holy Smite, you can either reduce the amount of damage that it reduces, right? So you take it from initially it was 99%, right? So you literally got hit as a mage and you were doing scratches. You did 0 damage. And then they changed it to 80%, I think, and then it went down to 50. You can change it, like you said, to where it's in that 10 to 15% range, where it's still having an impact, but it's not just totally shutting you down. Or alternatively, you keep it at that high reduction where it's 50% or whatever, and then you drop it down to 0 ticks, where you have a window where you're reducing that damage output.
Right,
as opposed to,
I will argue that, I've mentioned my anger toward RNG, and there's no way to get rid of RNG. It's what makes games like these interesting. But I think I don't know if it was always. I think you said it was always like this. But it always had a 75% land rate. Mm-hmm. Which I actually think is crazy. I'm like, if you can only use a skill once every 10 minutes, it should land every time. I don't. The fact that it misses sometimes is awesome, but it doesn't make me feel better about it, and they hate that when it happens. I'm just like, oh yay, it didn't land, but if it would have, I would have hated my life.
And that's another funny
so I
issue.
give it 100% land rate and lower the duration. That you're right. That's manageable because then there's counterplay available to that. I can be like, all right, I'm going to avoid him for a tick because I just can't fight him now. But when it's over, I can go fight him.
Yeah,
I have to figure out a way to.
That still opens it up for things like if you're at the end of your flag run, you smite somebody, and then that buys you a tick of trying to get into the capture the flag, or if you're in a keep, you smite somebody for a tick, and that buys you time. That's where it's situationally useful and not just 100% shut somebody down. And it's another issue with the the current durations with Irake and Holy Smite, where there's a 10 tick cooldown on all the bounty point skills. 2 of the I guess 3 if you count perforate too, but some of the bounty point skills last for half of the cooldown.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that doesn't make sense.
Let's move this conversation back toward ACFL. Are the owners going to vote on banning bounty point skill?
Well, see,
until they're fixed. Until they're fixed.
I do think we have to, because we're moving to a position where, I mean, this season has already been ridiculous, but do we move to a position where, next season, every cleric and every bardic has Irake and Holy Smite, and half the characters on the field are blind for 4 ticks, or have their spell damage nerfed to the ground? What does that do to the game, right?
I would have to agree. I look forward to the vote.
I don't think it's going to be that bad because, take Hodder, for example. 3 of the 4 core players have bounty skills. You can't use the same class. Theoretically, you could work around it and have, a few people with Holy Smite or whatever, but in practice, it doesn't become that much of an issue. Stars has 1 bounty skill. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they won the finals, and it was just through great play and strategy, composition. I don't think it's going to be substantial. I think if you ban bounty skills, then it sort of opens it up to all of this stuff that is viewed as Lance Armstrong.
Well, I mean, I've been trying to ban dragon skins for 3 seasons now, and I get smacked down every time I try, scoring just no. I mean, because the same thing started to happen, and that happened years earlier, where it was wait, people, and my team had it too, I recruited Branzel, and then he had 3 full sets of dragon skins, and I'm like, huh? What? This is what we're doing?
To me, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think we should reward investment into characters, and I think I think if you want to try to fight the DSL economy that has developed around the game, then you're probably going to lose that battle. I think, like Reklah said, I mean, we overcame. I mean, yeah, we've got one of the kind of bastions of the new DSL economy or whatever on our team, but I don't think it's necessarily kind of insurmountable, I guess, when people add bounty skills or dragon skins or whatever.
Well, in the case of bounty skills in particular, I just, like, the other effects are all more, like, gradual, but when a bounty skill happens,
subtle.
Yeah, they're a little more subtle, you know, but when a bounty skill hits, that's, like, somebody just got disabled for, you know, for 4 or 5 ticks, and then it just creates a weird dynamic inside the actual match beyond everything
if your only utility is spell damage, then Holy Smite sucks, right? But I think most folks have at least some secondary utility. Irake, I definitely get your point. That's a pretty long blind.
And like I said, it's you know, 4 or 5 ticks, and that's, you know, almost half the duration, the cooldown of the thing. So it's like, if it lands twice in a row, then you just got blinded for 8 minutes out of 20.
Yeah. I guess people don't Irake me, right? So I'm not as in tune with that. But Holy Smite, I mean, I move to maledictions or rescuing people or capturing the flag or whatever. So if nothing changed between now and next season with Holy Smite, I wouldn't be super torn up about it. I think it is probably a little too strong, but you know.
Getting back to ACFL gameplay, God forbid, I did notice you did something really intelligent the last couple of Hydra games. I can't speak for all games. I cast most of them, but I don't have great memory all the time. But anytime you're smited, you focus on regenerating Bodrum so that he is safe from a health perspective while he chains, which is a really smart move, and that's kind of the adaptive strategies that we want to see teams execute. You know, I still think that the best skilled team, and I think mechanics play a large part. I think mechanics are more important than anything else, including con cards or anything really. But I think it's mechanics, skill, and a couple of other things, and then con cards. But I definitely thought that was smart, and I think that's what we want to be promoting rather than necessarily being too negative about the game as a whole.
Yeah, honestly, I think we used regenerate not as much as we could have, and I like with the way things have gone in the past with wands and, you know, some other things, I feel like as soon as we start kind of utilizing ranged regenerate when I'm non-detect in the next room and Bodrum is mounted on a Dracolich chaining everybody, like, that's pretty tough to beat, right? I mean, I imagine that's going to get toned or something sometime in the future.
Don't say it. Don't give him ideas.
No, you think that's obnoxious. There was last season. It was last season. Because Quicksilver was who met us in the finals, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. They had Perithian, and I remember having. Actually, I still have some logs. I have one log. Like, you know, I've been posting logs on the forums, like old stuff that I came across. One of the ones I came across, not something I posted, but it was I had you know, a bunch of old ACFL meetings logged, and one of them is titled "The Perithian Problem." And it's us sitting there. It's me sitting there talking to my guys about the fact that Perithian would just sit there non-detect, and just sitting there spamming Dispel and Maledicts and stuff while non-detect.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, that's something you can do. Like, it's just you can just sit there.
Right.
You can't see
He's
you.
so
And you're just
frail,
being
so he
obnoxious.
turned auto assist off and did that.
And you just cast. So I mean, there's a lot of
smart.
new stuff you can do as an invoker with non-detect.
So I just want to change the subject one more time real quick.
Sure.
I think my second favorite thing to winning this season was you guys doing these casts. Like, this is just taking it to a whole nother level, and I just, you know, Alex and I kind of joke. I think we listen to the recaps every morning and then kind of end up regrouping and chatting about what happened in the night, the match before, or the match the night before the next day sometime in the afternoon, and it's helped us with scouting, but also I think it's fun to see more people getting interested in watching the logs and stuff like that. So thanks guys for doing this. It's really cool.
Man, I've had just a blast doing it. Like more than anything else, it's been fun for me. So I'm more than happy to do it.
I can echo Phil's statements there. I had a really good time just all season. The casting part, we had nights where we would play, and that was kind of stress/fun. But just the casting has been genuine fun all season long, because this is something. This is one of those things where you know a lot about something, like you know a lot about ACFL, but it doesn't translate into real life success anyway. So it's just fun to spout off, nonsense to other people, but things that maybe make sense to people in game.
Yeah, my girlfriend told me she was proud of me tonight for winning, so that made me feel good. That's my real life success from ACFL.
I got none of it.
That's the extent.
Yeah.
All right, so I mean, we talked a little bit about Magma Cup. I know, like I said, Brutes are going to do it. I know there's a couple other teams that are planning on getting together. I know Wargar is trying to get a team together. They're trying to get me to give them Grumph, I know. They want to do an all-dwarf team, and they want that Medio.
Here's a question.
Sure.
So, who do you think, if you had to assign top 5 players as far as trade value in the league? I mean, I immediately have to go to Grumph as a pretty high on that list, just based on rarity. I mean, you can't replace that character.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you think are the top kind of trade values?
Not assigning like order necessarily here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say, I'd probably assign top 2 to Bodrum and Grumph.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
I mean, Bodrum.
Reklah, I'm interested in your point of view.
For Bodrum, you have obviously like so much skill at this point. I used to, back in the day when you were a noob, it was all fun and games, and then you kept playing and you kept going at it, and like now you're just a monster, dude. And you've done it on different characters as well. You got better, and as you got better, your character got stronger too at the same time. So it's kind of a double whammy. And so I mean, there's just that character is just beastly. At this point, you know like the ins and outs blind of your character. So there's you're very confident, or at least it feels like watching you play, like you know what to do, and you just kind of do it. And then obviously with Grump, there's less of that player skill experience. He's not a super experienced player in terms of PK, although that is growing. He's been on the team for a while, but this is the first season that
he's growing pretty quickly. Yeah.
Previous seasons, he was kind of our backup healer. Like if Branzel wasn't here, or we really wanted to focus on using Zudum for the ER, like then we would throw in Grump. But he was mostly the backup. And this season he's almost been, he started off as still kind of backup, and then I went, hey, this is working out like really well, and Branzel kind of took the backup position. So, like you said, the character itself is irreplaceable in terms of mechanics. Like, there's no other High Priest. There's not. And then, the player skill is going to continue to improve season after season, especially if the seasons continue to come as more quickly. We've got Magma Cup coming up as well. Then that's going to be one of those things where he just gets better and better and better, and it's going to be.
Yeah. All right. So 3 through 5. I'm thinking actually probably your other clerical would be in there somewhere for me. I think. Yeah, I was going to say also Grendel, but I think having Grendel on your team probably changes your strategy entirely, right?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing because there is no doubt that Grendel has been an absolute monster on Sharks, right? But to a large degree, their team has been kind of ideally suited to supporting him because you've got the AoE stuns from Hartney and you've got the AoE blinds from Slan, and those do a lot to protect Grendel.
Yeah. and the kind of quick curatives from Merilith. Like, I think that team is. I mean, if you take Grendel off that team and put any other hitter, like, I'm not as scared of that team. Not that they wouldn't be a good team, and they haven't in the past without Grendel, but I mean, that team feels designed around it, and so with how much you have to flex your lineup around protecting Grendel, I think that kind of puts a damper on his trade value a little bit. I'm sure people would still overpay for him, just, based on kind of.
I mean, if nothing else, it gets him off the Sharks, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you no longer have to fight him. That's the trade value. You don't have to fight him.
Yeah. I think I'd probably put Reklah's trade value pretty high, and at the risk of making this conversation weird, I just think one, like, a good clerical is nice to have. A good hitting clerical is super nice to have. I think that character is pretty durable, and then I think that type of leadership and morale and stuff fits into a lot of what you might want on your team. I'm trying to come up with a fifth here.
Honestly, I would probably place Aradict as number 3.
Oh, wow.
And the reason why is this. You can put Aradict into any team, any composition, every night.
Yeah.
Like,
I'll give you that.
That's why, for me, literally, there's, what team is there that you can't make use of a Zhong, really?
No, that's a good point. That's a very good point. Especially a Zhong with Screech and, like, good hitting.
I mean, even if, you have another you have a niche composition that you're trying to use, like, Stars have not been using Zhongs for the most part, but, like, if on any given night, if you didn't want to run your main lineup or you didn't have one of your main guys, you could throw in Aradict and you would be monsters, right?
Yeah, no, we'd be happy to have Aradict on the team, so feel free to send him over.
I don't think so. Aradict is my baby. It's not going anywhere. I've clipped his wings.
Oh, hey, I want to bring something up. So, do you guys know, or are you willing to talk about purgatory bonuses?
Yeah, we've been fascinated by that. Slan specifically.
I don't even really know what it is. Like, it's an experience buff, and then like a small hit dam buff.
We heard it might also boost saves. Slan is the only one who's been in Verminatia lately for us to be able to test against, and I don't know, he saves bad in general.
Hang on, I'm retiring to Verm.
Yeah, that's what we've heard. We're not sure.
We've heard a lot of different things. We've heard, like, a miniature ER. We've heard we've heard basically everything, and it, we've seen some interesting retiring and kind of kingdoming activity. So we were just wondering.
I haven't played the game since it came in, until ACFL, and obviously I'm not been there.
Yeah, we're in the same.
Also, the only thing that's irritating about saves is you can test almost everything else, but there's no clinical way to test saves, really.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never had. I mean, it's kind of a pain in the ass, but you sit down with somebody and have them cast on you at like 200 times, and then you get another race, and you have them cast on you 200 times, and keep
it still
going.
Just feels random, though. I want to see the stats in my score.
But yeah, then there's all the the thoughts about are saves different in the arena, or are you somehow oversaving, or there's all that kind of stuff. So
makes your brain hurt.
It does.
I got tonight. That sucked.
During Seattle Con, Scorn said each room in the AGL arena has like a different like bonus or hidden effect or some shit.
Oh, he was messing with you. There's no way.
I don't
Tell me, there's like each room has like something slight that changes. That's what he was saying.
I can see him doing that to screw with us, but I'm hoping it's not true.
Yeah, I hope it's not true too. That would be so scary.
But I wanted to, before you guys continue, I want to throw into the whole top 5 conversation. I think it's funny because you brought up Branzel. I'm in love with all clerical types. I pretty much, despite the fact that I've gone heavy damage and chain with Bodrum a lot more in these team competitions. I tend to play Bodrum as a cleric. I like the healing and the fleeing and the running around like a psychopath. So I think Branzel would easily be a top 5 for me. He's probably the first person I would go for. I was like, oh, who could you add on to your team? So I think it's actually interesting you guys stopped using him. I would have used him with Grumpf all the time. Like, if I can get Reklah, Grumpf, and Branzel on the same team, maybe throw in a Druid, I'll do 4 Clericals. I think that's an amazing team. I don't know if that'll ever even be unstoppable.
Disagree with that, but I'd probably play Grumpf and Branzel together, yeah.
When you're playing Grumpf, you're putting out a lot of damage, but if you kind of force people to protect the line against him, right? And then you also kind of oftentimes direct focus onto him, which if you also field Xantilm, which I do with Grumpf, then he's the off line because you're protected against Grumpf, and then Xantilm gets to sit on you with no line protection, and then kind of deal damage as well. If you've got Branzel in there, then he's not dealing anywhere near as much damage, and then you kind of get to play around Grumpf a little bit more. So you force somebody's hand into the line protection and then try and take advantage of that, is my thinking.
Yeah, so that line of thinking is interesting to me because I get why. I mean, so there's differing opinions, I think, in that, okay, target the healer if you think you can kill him quickly because then you just eliminate the healing. But I think a lot of folks, I think sometimes a decent amount of the time, what we do is if you've got a human swashbuckler out there or you've got some kind of hitter with no healing, like, we're going for that guy. You know what I mean? Like, we've got a decent amount of kind of spell damage, spike damage stuff. We can get him, and if he separates from the group, then he's kind of screwed.
And definitely, there's a risk in trying to kill the healer, because then if you fail, then you just spent, like, all this time.
Yeah, you play right into their hand, yeah. And actually, I think what plays into it for us is when we like drill on the top hitter or one of the best hitters or whatever, that takes 2 people out of the fight to go heal that one guy, and that's when we typically grab the first flag. Like, you guys are, every time I listen to you guys talk about us, it's about how we're so aggressive with the first flag, but I think that's oftentimes where it comes from.
But also, the thing is, when you're talking about Grumpf in specific, he's not a normal healer, right? Because, if you sit on him, then, there's a chance he may not die, and then you kind of waste it. But if you're sitting on him, then you're kind of forcing him to deal less damage. If you're not...
Yeah, that's...
So, it's a different situation with him specifically than it is, trying to kill Azula or Marilith or whoever, because...
He's an Invoker Priest.
Because if you're sitting on them, it's... what are they doing? They're healing themselves. And if you're not focusing Azula, they're healing somebody else. If you're sitting on Grumpf, though, he's healing himself. If you're not sitting on him, then he's dealing like 12 yellow damage to you every round.
I'll agree to that, but I actually, and I probably see it differently than Rob as well. I still don't see that as being a good team makeup in the sense that I wouldn't put Xantilm with Branzel and Grumpf. I would literally just go 4 Clericals. If people target Grumpf and Grumpf isn't doing damage, it doesn't matter because your team just whittles us down. Like, we always played Hydra. Hydra never really had damage output. Hydra was generally Reklah with Ferocity. I mean, Druids do good damage, Shadow Knights do good damage, Perrin obviously does good damage, but really compared to like Duxatum Cones, Grumpf, AoE, the Troll, we considered Hydra the least damaging team of all of them. We always won the first encounter with Hydra. We never lost someone quickly. We never got kicked in the face. We almost always won the first fight and generally would take the first flag. There was a couple times that didn't happen. But even in those scenarios, they would come back and beat us way harder than everyone else did because we would never kill anyone in that first encounter, and they were the only ones able to come back and actually stop us from taking a flag after we've already won the fight. And we talk about hitting a healer so they don't do any damage, and all there's left is Branzel, but Branzel after he's hitting you for 10 minutes and you can't do any damage to him, it just really starts to drag on you. I always lost my mind fighting Branzel. I couldn't stand it. Still can't.
Like I said, there's I think they're both viable. Like, it's not like I think fielding Bodrum or Brandel instead is not viable. It's just different. It's like
Sure.
Oh, there was something I wanted to say on the topic of trade value and stuff. You were saying that Reklah and Brandel are kind of equivalent, and it's funny because in the current makeup of ACFL, I think Reklah is a stronger player. I think Brandel has possibly a stronger character, but more importantly is the dynamic of Paladin inside the overall dynamic of ACFL right now, which is that the team that you have to beat is the Stars, and who do you guys have that is like?
Yeah, no, I hear you.
So Paladins offer something unique against Stars that
pretty
Shadow Knights
annoying,
do
yep.
not. And
Well, Reklah just mounts the fucking Dracolich, so
every game.
Well, yeah, but then if you follow, or once Bodrum comes back in, you can kick him off of it.
drag him around. Yeah.
Actually, this became a problem the last time we fought them. If he mounts my Dracolich and I come back to life and go after it, the only advantage he gives me is that he can't flee with the Dracolich if I'm in the room. So the first time he did it, it was fine. I started killing him. He had to run away because we had a group on him, so he had to dismount and run away. But the second match we were playing with him when he took my Dracolich, we were losing, and I couldn't make Reklah want to flee, so I couldn't get my Dracolich back for like 5 minutes. It was driving me crazy. I think I may have dismissed it. I may have just given up and be like, I need to start over.
But still, I mean, I think that's something to consider, because as it stands, we see a lot of times, if the opposing team doesn't have a mage that can chain you, or some way to pull you off the Dracolich, then when it gets down to a healer and a hitter that can't stun you, or two hitters that can't stun you, like they have no response, right?
Right.
And so that's something unique that Brandel can do that a Shadow Knight cannot. Of course, then you have another thing that Shadow Knights can do that
shield disarm. Fuck.
Well, not even shield disarm. I was thinking, against Grushg and Grendel, you have fasting, which is kind of a pain in the ass.
But Paladins always have lay, and that is fascinatingly useful in ACFL in a close match. Like, your flag carrier's dying, boom.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's another plus for Paladins. It's just there's pros and cons, and then also you have to consider alignment issues.
Yeah.
So I mean, like there's all these dynamics at play. I don't think.
So I think we'll just keep Azula. You guys can keep your fancy
you guys have fun.
CSRs.
So I think in the current environment, I think Brandel is actually of greater value than Reklah, not because he's a better player but because his class is uniquely suited to dealing with what the top team can throw out.
That might be the first time you've ever admitted to us being the top team.
No, I mean, I've even at the pregame thing, I said, you guys are the favorites because you have incredible consistency from season to season. Like, as much as
thank you.
Regardless of whether or not I think my team wins in a best of 50, like, it doesn't matter if you guys have consistently shown that you're gonna win. Like,
man, I hope we don't have to play a best of 50. We're old and weathered. We don't have too much tread on the tires.
I think that should be the All-Stars match, to be honest. I think that it should be Brutes and Stars just go at it until Magna Cup starts. Every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday, Brutes and Stars. Let's do it.
That is a discussion I would like to have, because is
All-Stars
a thing? Yeah,
I hope
because
so.
I think if nothing else, like Elmanidra and Atherin showing up to every single match on Quicksilver, like that's somebody who wins it by default, but also because they deserve it. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I just also want to say, listening to your interview with them, I want them on my team, especially El Manedra. I just love their attitude, right? Like that was refreshing to hear them talk. Like after going through such a tough season, their attitude was pretty good.
Yeah, but I do agree with them. In their position, both of them said, kind of feel like we should stay on Quicksilver because that's the team where we're gonna get the most play next season.
Yeah.
And it makes sense.
It does.
Let's see, what else is there?
My phone's about to die. I gotta bail.
Okay, no problem, man. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. Great season, guys. Looking forward to Magma. I think we should just get together and talk about DSL regularly on
just do
Skype.
Like a regular podcast?
Yeah, agreed. I was thinking while we were talking, like maybe we should just do DSL radio shows. Yeah, like podcasts. I don't know what we talk about because I don't know anything about anything but ACFL.
I think Ixiquiz used to have a radio thing back when like the radio channel was actually new and getting used and stuff like that.
I don't want to listen to Kingdom discussion though. So
Kingdom
Hawkman all the time.
All right, guys. Have a good night. Good talking to you.
All right, congrats on your
win.
Thanks, mate.
Do you think before we close up, we could have a quick discussion on what we're expecting for the draft next season?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see for sure. I hope our draft is going to be larger than it has been previously. There's the one thing is, there is a limited player pool in DSL, right? And a lot of the quote-unquote top players are kind of already tied up on ACFL teams. It's going to be interesting to see if any of those players decide to retire their current characters and bring in a new one.
I'm going to be retiring Kiid.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Shut up.
You may retire from Asia for Purgatory. But so we're kind of limited in that respect, but especially with Magma Cup coming in, it's got that guaranteed prize money of like 100 eggs for your team if you show up to all of your matches, right?
Yep.
So I think we'll see even just like teams that maybe don't even have a chance in hell of doing anything, just so people can get that money. And if that's the case, then maybe that's they play that match and they go, hey, that was actually kind of fun, even though we lost, and maybe they'll sign up.
And I think there are a lot of people who want to play, like they've seen the games, and they weren't excited about it before the season because we've had this talk about this draft a lot. A lot of people weren't hyped enough for this draft because it's been so long since the previous season.
Like it was
exactly.
It was 2 years between seasons, and then all of a sudden it was like, hey, here's a draft. It's up.
Right.
There's a draft.
And because of that, the owners weren't 100% sure. Like we had the problem on our team as well. Even though Flyke tends to be so communicative, we're not sure who's actually sticking around this season because we haven't seen anyone in 2 years. Bodrum hasn't logged on. Is he going to show up in a game? And that hurt teams some more than others. Like Lacton is still on Quicksilver, and his schedule just did not let him to play at all. But he was able to play a couple of games, and I'm actually expecting him to be back next season. I'm hoping he doesn't leave Quicksilver because I think Quicksilver, for example, has a great team. We fought one of their full lineups at the end of the season where it was, I think, Prithian, Elmanidra, Ather, and then Lacton, and they were actually really strong. I was really surprised what I saw out of them. So them having a first-round draft pick next season scares me, as well as pretty much every other, like Hydra having, third, second draft pick next season just scares the hell out of me. But I am hoping that the draft is fuller next season than this season because for that reason exactly. Not to say we had bad draft picks this season. I'm happy with who we picked up. Again, they didn't get much play time.
There were a lot of really strong draft picks this season, but then there wasn't much in the way of like a second round picks, right?
Right.
It was just kind of everybody kind of like got one or two guys that was like, holy crap, this is awesome, and then there was no filler. So
right, I think there were a lot of good I think there were a lot of good sleepers, so not to like discount anyone who got picked in the second round, like Sean or someone. Like there were clearly people in there who got huge play time and really contributed. But you know, the big picks were generally the top three that changed team makeups. Like Layden didn't change our team makeup, but obviously Reklah, Grendel changed a lot of things on how those teams interacted. And Nazarin, who was I think a huge pickup as well, didn't really get any play time. Who was a top five. So I think it was really weird that really only there wasn't a huge shift in the teams this season other than the couple that had huge shifts in that sense, which I specifically think was Hydra and Sharks. Yeah. I think they're the only teams that really had a huge shift in how they were between this and last season.
Yeah, because I drafted Slan and then JoJo. JoJo didn't get any play, unfortunately. And then Slan, I played him once, and then I just, with other changes that had happened on the team, specifically with, let's imagine that Grumph didn't have Meteo, then maybe, Slan gets fielded a lot more, and then I don't trade him. But with Bodrum with Grumph being in the position that he was, I kind of started factoring him in a little more, and that kind of pushed out alternative stuff. And then the enemy team makeups kind of did it too. But then you also have the factor with the season is so much better since Slan got drafted or got traded, right? Like, like when that trade happened, like all of a sudden we went from having what was looking like kind of a guaranteed 3 playoff positions, and then we had a major race.
Right, and I think that came down to it comes back to our previous conversation about Grendel. Composition plays a huge factor. Like Slan looks like a beastly star when he plays with the Sharks. I don't think he could have ever had that performance with you all because, with Duxatum and with Grump, you have AoE damage, which means you can't strangle and do that at the same time. Not to mention you don't necessarily need the enemy to be blind to cone or to, Meteo them effectively. So Slan would never have been as accomplished on your team as he would have been on the Sharks. You may have done the dual choke composition every now and then, but even then you're doing dual choke with maybe Branzel, and then Grumpf can't Meteo if they're choked. So I still think it wouldn't have worked out that well. Because KCS is one of those weird teams that pretty much has only physical damage. I mean, Hartney's a weird anomaly in a sense, but they weren't, they're not mage heavy in a sense. Yeah. They didn't have Pukchi, they didn't have Prithian, they didn't have Duxton, they didn't have a Bodrum. So I think it played out really well for them to have them on their team. So yeah, I think that changed a lot. But that wasn't necessarily from a draft pick because you guys ended up trading it. So I feel like the draft overall had a pretty loose effect this season compared to previous. I feel like it didn't shift a whole lot around. It was fascinating.
I don't think it definitely didn't shift Brutes or Stars, and those were the top 2 expected teams moving in, right?
Right. So and Quicksilver. Quicksilver, it's unfortunate because they actually, I don't know if you guys remember, I was going back and looking at it. Quicksilver actually sold their first-round draft pick, so they didn't even have a first-round draft pick this season, which probably bit them in the ass because they clearly needed a good draft pick out there. But at the same time, I think with the money they got from KCS for that, at least they got some money out of it.
Honestly, I don't know that first-round draft pick would have saved them at all. It may have sabotaged somebody else, somebody else's season, but
right. Well, I am really curious to see how next season goes because there are a lot of people that just pop in my head of who I don't think I don't know alts very well, but my assumption is there's a lot of people who are popping in my head who don't have alts into ACFL, especially people who have dropped off. Like Lacton is an example of someone who's still in, but he's expecting to play again more in the future. Jazzarin is playing again, who just got dropped because he wasn't playing and is now active again. So I'm curious. Yeah. I don't think he came on other alts, so I'm curious to see him re-enter the draft in theory. I'm expecting some crazy stuff to happen.
Lacton would be a player that I would not be surprised to see retire and re-enter with an alt. Just because of the save situation, in Season 4, the saves casting situation was drastically different, and now this season when he has been there, he's had major issues in that regard.
Right.
And that's he's always had a very large mana pool for healing for a hitter, and that has been of great value to him. He's always been kind of like just a truck that you just couldn't stop. Like, he didn't have a ton of overall utility, but he's just like that dual wheel damage, the charge stun, the healing, and then just he just keeps coming and coming, and you could never kill him. And he just kept doing that damage. But nowadays, you E-drain him, you blind him, you dispel him, whatever, and it just kind of goes away. So I don't know. Like I said, I would not be surprised.
A good point.
Good point.
But even then, that's a new character I want to see enter the draft. I want to see these new projects everyone's got worked on.
And it's kind of sad to me in some respect, because when Blackton first joined the league, it was like, oh my god, this is a guy that's going to be here for 10 seasons, killing dragons and getting that dragon kill, the Dragon Slayer buff every time, and he's just like, he's already scary. Where's he going to be 10 seasons from now? And apparently the answer is completely, utterly broken spellbait.
Nerfs.
That's sad. That's sad to me. Like,
yeah. I mean, I don't know if I feel worse about, the fact that it's sad that he's broken now, or if I would have been more upset if he did get broken in the opposite direction and was now destroying everyone with dragon boosts. So I'll take the wins that I get.
I don't know. Thank you, dogs. We appreciate the background noise.
Well, I should probably be going as well, so I just want to thank you guys for allowing me to jump on when you have. I actually really enjoy being involved on the streams as well as listening to them, so I appreciate you guys inviting me on and letting me rant about random junk.
Sure.
So,
all right.
thank you very much.
Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll go ahead and close it out with that. I would like to, like you said, we can try and every now and then get some people together and kind of do like a more general podcast. Don't want to do it too often because honestly, I think it might just evolve into like bitching about whatever is currently the issue.
Sure.
But yeah, whenever something happens, like major changes, we can kind of get on and talk about them.
Yes.
Alright, thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll have this uploaded as soon as possible. Have a good night, and congratulations once again to Stars on their 3rd ACFL championship. Have a good night.